Right, as you can see, I've got a very triggering mask on because to some people this is apparently the same thing as like slavery or something else. I have no clue. I'm not going to keep it on all stream because I've got beer, but you know, I just do not get the mentality that some people have that being asked to wear a mask if you go to like a supermarket or something is akin to slavery. It's very, very strange, isn't it? But I'm sure the people will come out the woodwork tonight and be in the comments as usual. So, hello, Henry, you all right? So, all right, Altric, Sturgeon, AK. I'll be on probably about an hour tonight. I'm going to go out later tonight and see if I can see that comet, because there's meant to be a comet that you can see quite well at the moment. But every day I've been out to go and look for it. So far, it's been cloudy, but I think the weather's meant to be all right tonight. What does this weather report say? It says cloudy or partially cloudy. So I'm hoping at least tonight it has looked, you know, clearer to the day today, not as cloudy during the day. So I'm hoping I might get a view of it. Not enough, Marcus. I think it's as of the coming Monday or a coming day soon. It's mandatory. Let's have a look and see what day it is in the UK. It becomes mandatory. I mean, obviously, it makes sense to wear it, you know, earlier rather than later. But the government isn't forcing you to wear them until a certain date. I mean, you have to wear them on public transport now in the UK. I think shops, let me just search shop mask and see what the date is. Does it say what the actual day it comes in is? It says end of next week, so I don't know what day it comes in. Is it Wednesday? And you get £100 fine, apparently, but, you know. Yeah, that sounds good, Griffin. Make something interesting, I guess. Well, it stops you projecting germs as far out, if that's what you're saying, Miss Valadez. Obviously, real respirators are better, but the point of these is your breath isn't going as far. What, because he's not got a spanner next to his name? Oh, that's an interesting point, Outrix. Oh, we'll have to let Henry let us know on Discord about that. Uh, 50% what? But thank you very much, Marcus. What, 50% effective, do you mean, or like 50% of people? In shops at the moment, I think like 1 in 20 people, so like a couple of percent, sadly. All right, cool. I'll reappoint him. So any idea why that happened, Henry? But yeah, there you go, done. Yeah, weirdly, when lockdown just about started, I went into an Aldi and there was quite a few other people with like 3M style masks in, and you know, like the JSP ones, you know, like proper sort of half face respirators. But I reckon the number's gone down since then. It shouldn't be laggy. I'm streaming via Opera as usual. Let me check Steam's not decided it's going to do an update for a game or something, because if Steam's doing a game update, that could be why. But no, Steam's not doing it. But let me just close Steam full stop. But there's not anything running in the background. Yeah, there's a Russian riot helmet in the background. That's this one. So I suppose technically this could be a face visor, couldn't it? For the people saying about wearing face visors. Oh yeah, you did, Henry. Sorry, I completely forgot, because I think it was because it was at a time I wasn't doing a stream, so I said remind me when I'm streaming, but then I totally forgot you sent me the message. So yeah, that is a riot helmet. I need to polish it really because it's a bit fogged up now. You can probably see on the thing, but if I can actually get the buckle to go in, there we go. I've got the Scott M110, which is basically the same mask without the drinking tube. But yeah, so there you go. That's like one of those face shields, stops you putting your germs on everyone. Because as you can see, it's fogging up slightly as I talk, so it is actually working because they're hitting them. There. Yes, I do. I've just got a Carlsberg tonight. Can you drink it from under a riot helmet? Just about, but it's pretty awkward. I'm only going to have like 1 or 2 pints tonight because yesterday we had like a takeaway, so I had quite a lot of wine, and then in the morning I was regretting it. So Dan says, wait, I assume he means what? Is that yellow brownish thing next to the gas mask sign? Do you mean the French body armor? You're probably looking at the French body armor. It's like riot armor. All right, Peach. So yeah, what is very nice I've got on the way, assuming it turns up and it's really nice, it looks really nice, is a Gen 2 night vision unit, which would be really good for videos, assuming I can film for it properly, because I'm sure a lot of you know trying to film through night vision is a bit of a pain in the ass. But yeah, in theory, I imagine you could put a bigger visor on it, but yeah, that's the only thing with this one. As much as I like this helmet, you are right, the visor only comes down to about here, you know, like not quite the end of your jaw. I suppose if you tilted the helmet forwards, then it does. But yeah, I do know what you mean. Compared to some Riot helmets, the visor on this one is pretty small, but I think it's because it's meant to be a compact, lightweight, comfortable helmet. Swimming pools reopen. I can't remember the legislation on them. It's a mess of all the stuff that is open and isn't open, and then how some similar stuff can open and other stuff can't. But yeah, the visor on the British Mark III helmets are really big. Like, they're probably like that long, but the issue is the rest of the helmet isn't very comfortable. It'd be nice if you could get a helmet like this, but with that length of visor. But maybe you can get an oxygen bottle pumped into it, SRS. But you're right, Sam. But yeah, there's a lot of this I don't think has been very well thought out. Guy, man, thank you. He says, say the lingo D. All right. No, that doesn't make sense, but thank you for the donation. AK47 said, do you think the school should reopen this fall? I think it really depends how well they can organise it. I mean, it's going to hurt kids, isn't it, not having an education? But the big issue is, of course, without a proper social distancing or whatever in the schools, it's just going to cause spread again. Sadly, they're a different mount, White Wolf. Lots of Riot helmets, like how they attach to the, like the visors, how they attach the helmet have a different joint. So sadly, you couldn't put on without like drilling into this helmet to modify it, and I don't want to do that. But yeah, anyway, so night vision coming tomorrow, and I'll say a very big thank you to Hype because he paid a bit towards it, which is really kind of him. Although he said, although you can say I donated towards it, don't tell people how much because then they'll start asking me to donate towards their night vision as well. But so that should come soon. So it's an early British Gen 2 unit by the look of it. So the best unit I've got at the moment is the Pulsar, which is a Gen 1 Plus, and Gen 1 Plus is nice, but obviously Gen 2 is better light amplification again. So I'll definitely be going out and doing some videos of it. I'm just hoping it's one you can film through easily, because the problem I said before with lots of night visions is you can never get them to look as good on camera as you can to the human eye, because it won't quite focus on them right, or it like tries to do white balance or whatever and messes the image up. The thing is, Joshua, apparently kids are pretty all right with it. Like, I know it can kill kids and that, but I think the ratio of how dangerous it is to you as a kid is quite low. The issue I'm thinking is if a kid goes to school, picks it up as a carrier, but, it doesn't harm them, they'll give it to their parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, teachers, caretakers, everything like that. But yeah, the problem is it's not a simple, answer. So yeah, if I show you what a Gen 1 unit looks like, obviously this is with the lights on, so I have the protective cover on it, but I'm going to take this out to see if I can see the comet later with it. Just get the helmet out of the way. So obviously ceiling lights on, but I'm going to have that cover on, only letting in a tiny amount of light. A Gen 1 looks like this. So in the dark, that's what you roughly see. So obviously lights you can see are brighter on a night vision than to the regular eye, because it's light amplification. But that's what this one looks like. And then if you put the IR light on as well, then obviously it's like having a flashlight on. You can hopefully, if I get that in frame, you can see maybe that the IR light. There we go. is the IR is reflecting off my glasses, so you can see it there. So that's basically putting the IR on and off by moving my finger out the way of it. But the point is, a Gen 2 is much better light amplification than a Gen 1. Obviously, this is far brighter if you take this cap off, but the point is you don't ever do that when the ceiling lights are on, because that damages night vision. But, this is a very good unit, but the issue is, Gen 2s are better. And then Gen 3s are better still, but they cost way too much. Well, there's a reason it kind of looks like an old film peach, and it's because it's a cathode in there. These type of night visions use cathode ray tubes in them, whereas, modern screens are like LCD and LED, but those like your old CRT televisions, how they work. I'm good, Gretchen, thank you. Bit hungover this morning, and a bit ill because I ate too much last night, ate too much and drank too much, but had a good night. So today I'm on sort of, 1 pint again or whatever. The last couple of days I've actually been on very little alcohol. I've been weaning myself off quite well, but when you get a takeaway, you think, have a bottle of wine and then drink too much. CRTs are very cool, Ghost Jesus. I think there is cool retro stuff to CRTs, and you can degauss them and everything, which is very satisfying. They are very good for refresh rate, aren't they? CRTs. Like, you don't get as much blur with them and like weird ghosting stuff with CRTs. But I mean, the problem with CRTs is how bulky they are, and they give off X-rays, which, depending on how you look at it, is either cool or worrying. But yeah, don't worry to anybody who's not been on streams in a while. Like, my streams recently have been all over the place in terms of time because of like all the stuff that's going on in my life at the moment, and everything else. But White Wolf, pretty much with my job, it's a case of I'm at least not back to work until August, and then I'll probably find out if I've got a job or not, or if I have to be off longer, Guy Man says, yell, Guy. There you go. I don't know if you want me to... Are you trying to get me to say gay or something? But Guy and gay sound quite differently. But there you go. Thank you for the donation. I've said it for you. But yeah, I think that's what's going to happen with a lot of people. And again, it depends. Is there going to be a second wave, more lockdown restrictions? Because obviously the issue for a lot of companies in the UK is, and pretty much anywhere, if you have a sort of operating budget and then you've had the lockdown and then you're told you can reopen, but there's all these restrictions on your business, but your rent and all your, business costs aren't going to go down because of that. It's just going to massively hurt the income of lots of businesses. So the issue is now, that's why, it's pretty grim for what's going to happen on the jobs market. I'm not going to yell because it would upset the balance of the microphone. But yeah, the point is that, for a lot of jobs, it isn't, and employers, it is not a good sign at the moment. Just because, they were saying, it might be a V-shaped recovery, where it'll go down fast and it'll go up fast. It's really not. I think it's gone like this so far. And if we have a second wave, then there's even more damage to the economy. Yep, an Israeli mask and filter will be absolutely fine, Owen. The thing is, though, a planned economy would still completely get fucked by corona. I think economies full stop will be screwed over by pandemics. Because, it doesn't matter if the government is injecting money into it or it is taking a laissez-faire capitalist attitude, When you have basically diseases, it never does a good thing for the economy. Like, maybe companies that make gas masks at the moment and companies that are like, medical companies are doing well. Most aren't. There isn't things that, if you have generally disasters, they're not good for anybody. Yeah, but Ebola, Miss Fallon, as much as Ebola is very deadly if you get it, or like a very nasty disease, it's not very transmissive. Because it's basically like a fluid-borne infection in the sense that, you have to get like blood or semen or whatever from a person with it to be infected. So Ebola was generally very infectious in areas in Africa where there was poor sanitation, and there was like lots of kind of stuff done with bodies before burial, like preparation for the bodies. That was the one way it was spreading quite quickly. So, if they washed the body and kind of dressed the body up for a funeral, quite often, like kissed the dead body, stuff like that, that would be when the infection would spread. But yeah, Ebola is a much nastier disease than corona, but the point is it's not very infectious. So Ebola is scary in the sense if you're in a place of poor sanitation, but it's not really a threat, to people who follow hygiene rules. But I suppose corona has taught us that lots of people still don't follow basic hygiene. Probably one of the mass-produced civilian ones, Splatman, I would guess. Whether or not that was like the British civilian one or the German VM37, VM40s, hard to say. Swine flu was actually really bad. It was just with swine flu, I think we were pretty lucky that most people ended up getting it and just thinking they got the flu. And then, obviously some people did tragically die from it. And I think a lot of people did die from swine flu. I actually got swine flu when that went around. I felt like absolute shit for a week, but I was all right. But I was a teenager then. But the problem is, I think with corona mostly, it seems to be all the stuff to do with, it seems like you don't get any really good immunity for it. Like they seem to think that, your antibodies wear off after a while, or you're left with lasting damage. Well, Spanish flu caused masses of damage. There wasn't massive restrictions done with Spanish flu, as in 1918 flu. But the issue was that, it's hard to say, but then again, there wasn't lots of international air travel at the time, was there? The problem is, in a very global world now, diseases travel faster. And here's the thing. I am not somebody who could tell you if we did all these different scenarios, like if a lockdown was done really strictly, if we had a light lockdown, if we had no lockdown but everybody wore masks, I could not tell you out of which of those scenarios you'd have the least economic damage and the least deaths. I don't think we'll all know until all this is over, but the point is I don't think anybody's going to do well out of it. Swine flu is basically just a type of flu. Yeah, Bulgarian PG1s are all right. But yeah, swine flu was just like a particularly nasty strain of flu that, obviously jumped from pigs to humans. A bit like bird flu or avian flus, the flus that jump from birds to humans. Swine flu was nasty. It was just, like more virulent than a lot of winter flus. But, the point is of all these things is they never do anybody any good, The thing is, different countries are taking different measures, but I don't think anybody's come up with a really good solution yet, because it's either overbearing lockdown, and then when you start easing lockdown, the cases shoot up, or it's basically do nothing and then get a massive amount of deaths. Because everybody was saying how well Sweden was doing, and a lot of people in Sweden basically saying, no, it's not as good as, a lot of media people are saying it was. They still had massive amounts of deaths in certain, like, districts and things. But yeah. Don't make me hungry, Mystic Gamer, talking about food while we're talking about deadly diseases. I don't know how many people we know got it or didn't. Like, when I got it, a lot of people in my school got it, because I had swine flu when I was in secondary school, and a lot of people were off ill at that time, and I don't mean skiving, like they said, don't go into school because you've got symptoms, therefore, you're a risk, and they gave me some sort of, like, painkillers and antiviral medicines at the time. I can't remember what they were, the antivirals. But, it was something to just kind of reduce your feverish sort of symptoms. But other than that, swine flu was just very achy and tired for a week. Yeah, basically, Marcus, because there's so many different strains of it. And the thing is, the common cold isn't really one disease. It's a whole host of coronavirus, rhinoviruses, all sorts of things. You'd have to ask somebody really into biology, but I think it's just because what we call the common cold is just thousands of different, upper respiratory illnesses. Sadly, they didn't give me that, Lucas, back when I was at school, but I'm sure with most people, if you give them enough opioids, they can manage through a sickness, but obviously then the issue is, would they be hooked on it afterwards? And, the risk of overdosing on opioids. Yeah, I really don't know. I must have been like 14, 15 at the time. I can't remember, though, what year swine flu was, but it was when I was at secondary school, in one of the later years of secondary school. Well, the thing is, bubonic plague is bacteria-based. Dr. John Campbell did a good video on this recently. And because plague is bacteria-based, it's not all that scary in the modern world, because while it's a very dangerous disease, you can give people antibiotics. Whereas, you know, something like corona is a virus. There's no antibiotic for it. You get antivirals which can mitigate some of the symptoms of it. You know, an inferior vaccine could be developed, but it's not like you have it and then there's something they can give you to suddenly make you like far, far less ill from it. I can see that one, fox sickness. No, I didn't know there was a Mexican military parade on. Is now a good time to be doing parades, though? Because, you know, you'd think with all the stuff on at the moment, you'd want a lot more social distancing. Yeah, I've been watching a load of his videos again, because I hadn't been watching a lot of his videos for a while, just because, obviously, with Corona, not much had been changing. You know, he was very informative before all the Corona stuff really kicked off and lockdowns. But I think there was only so much he could say about it, you know. But now he's been talking a bit more about, like, second wave stuff. It's a lot more interesting again because, you know, he's actually giving out lots of really good information. Highest reading I've ever got off on the counter, Dan, probably about 8 centigrade or 9 Rontgen. But that was one of the MD3s with the bottom open, basically put on a I mean, legit reading. This is not, you know, like the Geiger giving a false reading. And that was a really big radium dial put in there, so all the alpha, beta, and gamma was hitting the inside of it. In theory, I suppose if you got a lot of americinium and other things, you could probably get a higher reading. But yeah, so the highest reading I've had is about 9 Rontgen. And I wouldn't really want a reading like that in all honesty. But as I said, that's literally getting some samples and putting a detector right on top of the samples. It depends completely on the country, Miss Valadez, because Europe isn't one place. There's like the EU, the European Union, and not all European countries are member of that, and not all of them completely go along with different EU rules. So basically, different European countries have different passport things. And also, interestingly, some countries you can go to from the UK to those countries, but if you're in certain towns in the UK or cities, you can't because of, you know, like different areas the UK currently having like higher levels of coronavirus. Right, Marcus. The quick answer is strontium-90 you're not going to be able to easily buy on eBay, even though it's not really illegal to have. I think EU has rules about trading it. But strontium-90, a lot of the time, if you buy old Geiger counters or Radioactive kind of instruments, they do often sometimes have a strontium-90 sample with it. So my only advice is basically, if you bought something like a Soviet DP5V Geiger counter, it might very well come with a bit of strontium-90 still in it. But, hello, bots, you're right. But yeah, the issue is, with strontium-90 is, like, for example, in the UK and with EU countries, I don't think people can legally post it to you. But, you know, sometimes you will buy a Geiger counter, find it's got a check source, open it up, and you're like, oh, it's got a bit of strontium-90 in it. But strontium-90, in all honesty, is actually not that scary, just because of the fact if you have it in a pure sample form, it's only emitting beta radiation. Now, strontium-90 is really scary if it's like dust in the air, because then it's going to get into your lungs and into your bones. But when it's in a proper sample, pure beta emitters aren't that scary. But, you know, it is one of those things you still have to handle it responsibly, because if you get some strontium-90 and then like, oh, shit, where did I put it, you know? But yeah, strontium-90, interestingly, I'll show you a reading of some strontium-90 with the... Right. Strontium-90 is really pretty, though, if you take the foil off. So the Soviet ones have a bit of foil over it. Let's get the thing in a minute, but I'll put it up to the camera so you can see the eye of the strontium, in a sense, which is like the eye of Sauron, without a little bit of silver covering it. See that? That weird looking thing is strontium-90. I don't know if it's going to bombard the camera with energy if I do that, because it's beta, not alpha, but or gamma. But so yeah, I don't know if that's going to make a load of static on the camera or not, but that's what strontium-90 actually looks like if it focuses. That's quite a small sample. Also, strontium-90, this is like an actual solid sample of it, so it's quite safe, but don't look at it like directly with your eyes if you don't have glasses on or some sort of face shield, because it can cause cataracts, especially with stronger samples. That Soviet one isn't all that strong a sample. Let's turn a Geiger on and take a reading. But that Soviet one is basically like, you know, to just test the Geiger counter works. The idea is you have it in the probe or the Geiger counter box. Yep, that would be Eben Byers. He drank radium water. Fun fact, don't ingest radium. It's really not good for you. So yeah, let's put this on millirontgen per hour, although this is technically millirem per hour, because that's what the if it will focus on it, that's what the DP5s register, and then yeah. So what are we going to get on this? 4, 5, 6. About 6 millirontgen. That's not all that high. It sounds high because the decay is high, but they're not all that energetic. Now, this is the reason I've been telling all you people why I end up loving these things so much. Ionization chambers. This one's got a beta window. Because what we're going to do is turn this one on and 0 it. So it's actually 0, and then just let it warm up. Right. About 0. Yeah. Right. So we'll put that back on and let it go to 0. And then what we're going to do is take a reading off the strontium-90 with an actual ionization chamber, not a Geiger counter. And it won't look as scary. The reason being, this will actually show you what it's doing in terms of ionization, not just the counts coming off of it. So we'll hold that steady in a minute and hope it goes to 0, because I did 0 it, but the problem with ion chambers is they have to warm up and air movement throws the numbers off a bit. Let me just put it back on 0 mode again. That is still showing up as 0. Let's just plus it a little bit. So the other way. We don't want it that high. Ooh. There we go. Right. Put it back onto run mode. So, right, anyway, the point is you're going to see that number rapidly change when the SR90 goes in front of it. So there we go. And what we're getting, about 14 millirontgen? 12 millirontgen? Yeah, that much millirontgen. But yeah, that's the real reading from it, because this is measuring the ionization inside the chamber, not counts. I still need to get round to doing a video on it at some point, and I've not got round to doing it yet, where I actually test loads of samples, like, you know, use it with a Geiger counter and then use it with this to see how the samples differ. Because you will notice on some samples that the numbers are massively different between a ionization chamber and a Geiger counter. And ionization chambers are actually more accurate. It's just they're less responsive in a way, you know, like the numbers take longer to change, everything else. But yeah, this was meant to be a coronavirus stream, wasn't it? And then it was, oh, look, something radioactive, because somebody mentioned strontium-90. Let me put this back in its container, because, you know, I'm a good boy. I want to be safe. And actually, something that might be worth showing while I've got it out. I'm sure some of you will recognize what this is. We'll do a Geiger measure and then we'll do it on the thing, because we've completely gone off topic now. A load of old watch hands, look. Ooh, what did they used to paint on watch hands? I know a lot of you will know. I know it won't focus there, but I just want to see if you start seeing white flashes. Oh yeah, there are some white flashes. Good. All right, it's because it's radium painted watch hands. But anyway, this might be actually more active than the strontium. I'm not sure. It's actually more energetic. That's the interesting thing with radium, because it is a stronger thing. But oh, I'm putting it on the wrong Geiger tube. That's why. So what reading did we get? Can you remember on the other one? Yeah, I'm sorry, Marcus. It is interesting, though, isn't it? So we're looking at about 15 milliröntgen, or technically millirem off of those. Don't ban Henry Eltrix. But thank you for the donation. Anyway, so then if we go back to this one and make sure it's at 0 or close enough to 0. Yeah, it's going back down to 0. Right. Put that there. Let's see what we get. 15, 11. Yeah, about 15. 10 to 15. So a pretty similar sample size. Radium watch hands. This is a gamma well, not really a gamma spectrometer. No, it isn't a spectrometer. It is a ionization chamber, but a digital one. Now, we're really not on the topic of corona, are we? But unfortunately, I find this stuff really interesting. But yeah, let's see if I can. Do you want to see something while I've got this stuff out before I put it back in the safe? That. Oh, actually, I know what might give a really different reading. Ta-da! Right. Now, this might be really interesting because thorium has several energy things. So, the classic lamp mantle. Let's turn the Geiger around so he's up there, and then I'll just drape the thing over. So here we go. So this isn't really, it's only just about 1 milliröntgen, right? So activity-wise, that seems pretty boring compared to the other thing. Now, this is where it should get interesting, because thorium is higher energy, even though a Geiger doesn't tell you the energy of something, just the decays. So we'll let that go back to 0, because obviously it's been moved about. It's very safe. I mean, I don't have gloves on, but bear in mind this is just a thorium lamp mantle. It's not... There we go. Right, so let's put this on the ion chamber. Are we at 5? Okay, so that number is massively higher on this compared to the Geiger, at least on a scale. And yeah, the reason for that is simply put, that thorium is more energetic, but a Geiger won't tell you the energy of something. Just the decays. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So yeah, I'll do a proper video demonstrating all this at some point. But yeah, a Geiger counter measures decays per second or decays per minute, and then gives you an equivalent dose based on 1 radionuclide. Ionization chambers actually measured a pure ionization of the air. Good Geiger and sample to start with. Well, I quite like these, in all honesty, because what you can do with these is you can actually put them on a screen that doesn't lie to you. So CPM. So this is a CDV 500, and CPM is actually what the Geiger is really measuring. Counts per minute, as in radioactive decays. Every time it counts, it ticks when a bit of radiation hits it. It measures that, and then it gives you a dose equivalent at the bottom. So yeah, the point is, as for samples, there's loads of different samples. Oh, look, I'm out of focus. You can get, like bits of thorium, uranium ores, americium 241, strontium 90, cesium 137, radium 226, obviously. Just do not... Miss Valadez is a regular. Why was she hidden? Might need to unhide her. Hang on a second. Oh, unhide for now. I don't know what all that was about, but she normally comes on these streams, so... Anyway, let me go back to what I was saying, then we'll go back to the COVID chat so I don't get distracted. But yeah, as for samples, check what's legal in your country. That's obviously an important thing. And then check how you can legally order it via mail or whatever else. And then make sure you keep it responsibly. You know, don't go, oh, I'm just going to leave this sample somewhere. I don't know where I put it now. Like, all of mine are locked in the safe when they're not in use, except for the very low activity samples. I prefer the M95. I just think it's a more comfortable material. But a lot of people do like the M40. Yeah, I'd agree. For people who are obviously not being trolls, give them a timeout, not a ban. Because a lot of them sometimes just say something. I think that upsets one person. But anyway. I don't really know, Rance, because I've never bought a C420, but they turn up now and again on eBay. I've just never really had much interest in them. But yeah, going back to coronavirus, is it Blackburn in the UK now? They're thinking about having to do a second lockdown, and something like 6% of all tests done are coming back positive now, which is actually really scary. Just from, you know, like doing random tests. 6%. So assuming that the tests aren't faulty, the idea is quite scary that you might just be randomly swabbing people and you're getting a rate of 6% on them. Yeah, I don't have anything radioactive in my bedroom. There's a smoke alarm in the other room, so technically that is radioactive. But yeah, in this room, there's just a couple of things like uranium glass and torbanite, stuff like that. And there's that container that's going back in the safe that had things like the strontium-90 inside a steel container. And then that's in, you know, behind more steel and lead and locked in a gun safe. But yeah, for the most part, there's a few very not very radioactive things in here on the shelf, just so I can quickly get them to demonstrate like Geiger's working and stuff in videos. And then everything else is locked in the safe. Not just laying around, as I was saying, Trace. Nearly all of them are kept in a safe. And for the people that just don't know, even though we're going off the subject of coronavirus, Geiger counters always tick. You cannot have a Geiger not tick unless it's broken. Because if you look at this, in a minute it'll go normal. There we go. See, normal, where I'm holding it. Medium to normal. And that's always ticking. If it's 0, it's not working, because that's how Geiger counters work. I like the Polish MP5. You have to be a bit careful with it in terms of, you know, yellowing and like the plastic being a bit brittle on the hard plastic parts. But it's not a bad mask in all honesty. But yeah, it would be nice if we can get back on the subject of Corona. Yeah, Justin Vapor, I think we're already pretty much going into a massive recession or depression, aren't we? The more lockdowns continue, the worse it's going to get. I've got an AVEC filter somewhere, but mine wasn't a brand new one, but I have got an AVEC filter. It's a Ghost AVEC filter, which is even nicer because it goes on all my masks. I wish they made radiation interesting at school, random sod. They really didn't. If it was interesting at school, I'd have probably learnt a bit more at school and then had no interest in it as I was an adult. But I'm just more like, Geiger counter goes tick, you know. I really wouldn't, in all honesty, know what to invest in, Janice, just because it's anybody's guess, really, what would do well and what wouldn't. I mean, if you were going to invest in companies, I guess companies making PPE and pharmaceuticals probably are going to do well. But for the most part, I couldn't think of much worth investing in because it's all going to go to shit. Well, swine flu is more worrying. Plague, as we were saying earlier in the stream, isn't very worrying as long as you can give people antibiotics, because as dangerous as it is, it's treatable with antibiotics. I saw that on a video a day or two ago, but yeah, it's like 10 to 20% of people that get COVID get a rash, don't they? As I've said lots of times, wearing a gas mask would certainly help reduce the rate of infection. I don't think lockdown is stealing freedom when you've got an infectious disease, as long as it's applied appropriately and then they ease off of it when it's time to ease off. But what we've learned a lot through this, sadly, is there's lots of people that are just idiots who won't follow any kind of sanitation or hygiene advice unless they're forced to. But yeah, 2020 is a bit of a shit year, isn't it, in terms of all the disasters that are happening? No, what's this White Wolf? You have to explain it a bit in the stream, because it's a bit hard for me to keep Googling stuff when people bring it up in streams, sadly. Yeah, didn't California re-lock down literally everything, like close down all their restaurants and bars and everything? Oh, there is an excuse, Daniel. It's because the Illuminati New World Order are putting the Bill Gates vaccines in you if you wear a mask. Or something like that. I don't really know, but that's some of the weird shit I've heard so far. That's their excuse. But yeah, in reality, there is an excuse. Like, the thing is, there are a few people who need to be exempt from wearing masks due to, like, severe asthma and other lung problems and whatever. But yeah, for most people, they do not have an excuse, especially, you know, oh, it's too taxing to breathe through a surgical mask for 10 minutes, yet doctors manage to wear them for 8 hours a day, you know. Celebrate Xmas in 2020. Maybe that you're still alive. I don't know. Yeah, I know Leicester's still under lockdown, but aren't they locking down Blackburn as well by the sound of it now? Or is it that they're thinking about locking down Blackburn? But I know there's more and more places in the UK now where they're going, oh, we might need a localised lockdown because the numbers just keep going up. Now, what about Halloween? You can wear a gas mask at Halloween. I mean, you can wear it now anyway. Jana says, the electronic birds transfer the coronavirus via 5G masts. It is simple once you think about it. Still not sure. Not loads, Mike. We kept getting distracted and talking about radiation for the most part. Just because I think Marcus asked me about strontium-90, and then I got very sidetracked, demonstrating strontium-90 on a Geiger counter versus a, you know, there might be something I show everybody with strontium-90 before the stream ends, because I've got out of the gun safe at the moment. If people find strontium-90 interesting, like I do, but, you know. Well, yeah, if you're using gloves, you still need to be sensible. You know, a glove is good in the sense that you can dispose of it properly. But yeah, the point is that, you know, wearing a glove doesn't mean that there aren't germs on the glove. Well, you might be able to, Marcus. You have to see what happens all the way over then. You know, I don't think any of us know what's going to happen. I mean, that's pretty grim economically, isn't it? In terms of just 20% of people expected to go back to work in London. I mean, I know London doesn't really represent the real UK picture in terms of lots of very rich and very poor areas, you know, kind of like next to each other. It's not really a very accurate, you know, depiction of the rest of the country, but still worrying. German M60. I am in your drawer. Did you not know that I was here? Wow, I think it's okay to wear an M40 sliding door. Whether or not somebody would object to you wearing M40 is another thing, but I think it would be okay. It depends what it is, Peach. There are interesting experiments you can find online where like greenhouses grow a load of things and then they grow a load of things parallel next to like set check sources, and they grow weird. They definitely grow weird next to radiation sources. But I've never done it myself personally because I don't really keep anything outside of the safe that's very strong, and I'm pretty good at killing pot plants anyway without the help of radiation. Like overwatering them or underwatering them. Oh, that doesn't need water, and then it dies, or oh, I'll give it some water and then flood it and it dies. So yeah, I think pot plants die without the help of radiation around me well enough. It's in ammo cans in the safe, Daniel. And there's what the strongest bits, the bits I have in the steel container that's currently outside of the safe. It's over there because I was using it for a video recently. And then what I do when that's not in use is the steel container goes in the top of the gun safe in the ammo lockbox, which is then, within the safe itself. So it's even further into the safe in a sense. Yeah, I don't know what would happen with weed and radiation either, Mike. I think it would probably do the similar thing to other, plants. Yeah, loads of lead flashing and just like lead block type things, Daniel, I've put in, like chunks and then put them in the door of the gun safe. It works pretty well, but the main thing is inverse square law. That, I've not got anything so scary that if you're in the same room as it would be a problem anyway. So when it's in a gun safe, and then you're physically blocked from getting that close to it anyway because there's a safe there, it's very safe, There's this Geiger's ticking, Marcus, if you can hear that. But that's ticking at background levels, see it says normal. I'll make it say not normal in a minute. Too many, Bella. Over 150. I think somewhere between 150 and 200. I don't even know anymore. How is Geiger spout as in like the weird artist guy who did all the penis pictures? Like the penis and vagina aliens. HR Giga or Geiger. Isn't his name like Geiger but spelled slightly differently? Well, I know Geiger is Geiger as in Geiger counter because it's named after Hans Geiger. Yes, are you new, Enderman? But anyway, we'll finish the stream in a minute because what I'm going to do is thank you very much, Chief McMelly. Is that? Thank you very much. What I'm going to do once I drink tea sometimes, Dan. It depends what time of day it is. If it's like before 6 p.m., 7 p.m., it will be coffee or tea or something like that. If it's 7 or 8 p.m. or after, it will be decaf if it is something like coffee, or it will be like beer or wine or whatever. But yeah, like I said, I'm not drinking loads tonight. This is the first can I'm on that's still like 3/4 full because, my stomach's not been very settled. In September, they are a truck camper, yes. But yes. Yeah, I like coffee and tea, bots. Most people here do. It's not a weird thing. Right. So, who wants to see the scary strontium-90? Because I'm sure you do, but this is where it will give a really interesting example of different numbers on an ion chamber to a Geiger. So let me just power this up and zero it again. I think the 0 should still be fine, but well, it's not this one, is it? It's the other one. Right, let's put him on there so he powers up and hopefully goes to 0 on his own. Interestingly, this one actually warms up at a higher number and then it goes down. I never noticed that. Right, so as long as it finishes around 0, it's working. If not, I'll have to re-zero it. But anyway, Scarium, yeah. If That's it, Mike. If you discover anything radioactive, you have to call it scarium. I think that would be a good name for a nuclear isotope. Special brew's all right, but I don't know. I like wine if I'm going to like a higher percent than like a few percent on a beer. Normally, anyway. And then if I'm going higher than that, you know, liqueurs and spirits, basically. But, you know, it depends what I'm in the mood to drink, really. And how fucked I want to get. Anyway, let's have a look. Right. Sample. The sample will all fall down. Right. Directly from China. And I put PVA glue on this so it doesn't leak out. You'll see why in a second. We have the Chinese bit of SR90. Now, I've had to actually use PVA glue on this because, as you can see, it's cracked open. And you do not want this powder going anywhere. So it's actually PVA glued in. It's probably not going to focus on that. But, yeah, it turns out the top of this has got like a powder in it. That's like obviously the strontium-90 isn't actually a powder form. So anyway, this is the fun bit. So this is what it does to a Geiger counter. Oh, it's on the wrong tube, that's why. See, it cuts out because of the energy. So yeah, that's that one. But anyway, if we want to get a real reading off that, we have to use an ionization chamber because it actually measures how much the air is glowing inside the ion chamber. So let's have a look. Right, we're in millirontgens. 115 millirontgen. 114 millirontgen. 112 millirontgen. If we turn it up on the other setting, I don't want to mess with the 0, and then as in do it as like how much of a Rontgen it is 0.15 Rontgen, 0.1 Rontgen. But yeah, the point is, you know, this is ionizing enough to be like the 10th of a Rontgen. So it's pretty hot, isn't it? You know, in a Chinese Geiger counter. But yeah, the problem is with this is it overloads Geiger counters to the point they can't read them because of how energetic it is. But it's low energy beta decay essentially. See, the number actually starts dropping off, but if you move it back a bit, just counts per minute. But yeah, as I said, it's an interesting thing, but you know, the less it's played with, the better probably. But beta radiation isn't really that scary. But only in the sense that that's in a check source and I know where it is. If it was in the air, it would be very scary. I don't know, Tev. I'm sure there are channels like this. Have you seen a load of the really cool Eastern European channels where they're doing really fucking dangerous stuff? I mean, I like channels like that, but you know, where it's just like, oh, I have got this wire. What am I going to do with it? You know, and they're like, oh no, but you know, but it's a bit different, isn't it? But yeah, it's like Electro Boom always like shows videos from those channels. It doesn't work like that, Stephen, unfortunately. You have to be playing with neutrons to become radioactive yourself. If you're bombarded with strontium-90, other than the damage it does to you at the time, it won't make you radioactive unless there's like strontium dust everywhere. Garage 54, that does sound familiar. Is that one of those like channels where they play around with dangerous stuff? But yeah, so yeah, but the thing I'd honestly say though, in all honesty, just for people interested in radionuclides, I would legit say Radium-226, just in like the form of old watches, is actually a lot scarier than proper check sources because of just the risk of radium paint flaking off. Is he the one that's done like loads of Trabant and Ural type videos? I might have seen him if so. I don't really know what they could do with the elephant's foot, you know, other than leave it where it is and hope it doesn't go anywhere. Yeah, I know about the Radium girls. Yeah, regarding Radium, there's Surviving the Apocalypse has 2 of these, and I've got 2 of these. The back screens from Soviet DP-63 Geiger counters, Jesus Christ. You know, where they decided, oh, it doesn't glow in the dark enough, comrade. And they, you know, literally put so much of this fucking radium paint on these back screens for the Geigers that, you know, it does similar things to the strontium when you put it near a Geiger. When you actually measure it with like one of those, I think it's maybe like 0.4 of a Rontgen. I can't remember now. But that's like the beta and the gamma coming off of it. Who drank water from inside of a building in Chernobyl? I've not done that. No, Vostok watches, I was say sadly, not radioactive, at least not the common generations of them. I don't know if I can get that to focus on there, but no radium in these. Vostoks actually went away from radium before lots of Western ones did. But yeah, Vostoks definitely don't have radium on. They're like very similar to modern watch looms that are on Vostoks. They're not quite as good, but in all honesty, this particular Vostok does have a really good loom, as in, you know, by the morning, if I go to bed at like midnight and I've put a light near it enough that, you know, it's had a good charge, when I go to, you know, like 5 or 6 in the morning, even if the curtains and the doors are closed, I can still read the numbers on it, you know, on the hands. So Vostoks do have pretty good loom if they're charged up enough. But this Vostok's pretty good because all of the numbers are actually loomed on it, you know, where some Vostoks just have like little dots that are loomed around the watch. Only slightly higher than background, Daniel. So if I put a counter like this directly onto the gun safe door, it would be like putting it next to your smoke alarm sort of thing. It's not even as hot as being near Fiestaware kind of stuff, you know, well, nowhere near as hot as Fiestaware. Because at that, you know, because of inverse square law, you're not getting any alpha or beta read at that range, and what's happening is just the gamma is like way weaker than it is at the source. The easiest way to think about inverse square law of radiation for the people that don't really want to know a lot about physics, imagine visible light. You know, if you turn a light on, like imagine a candle, right? So you light a candle in the dark, and obviously a candle doesn't illuminate very much, does it? It's really bright next to the candle, but the further you get away from the candle, the darker it is. That's how gamma rays work, basically. The source, they're really hot. As they spread out from the source, although they spread out from the source, they get a lot weaker. Double the distance, quarter the dose. So yeah, if you've got your radioactive samples at the back of a safe, the safe door isn't very hot at all. Yeah, well, the thing is, granite, if you lived in a house with lots of granite, that would actually be more worrying because you're probably getting radon gas buildup from, you know, bits of uranium and radium in the walls that are building up radon gas and it's leaking. Yeah, you get radium compasses from World War One and World War Two as well. Some of those are really hot in terms of, you know, and aircraft dials that give off lots of readings. I've still got some behind me that I need to put in the safe. These sort of things. They're not actually as hot as some of the dials I've got, but, you know, they're still way above background. But yeah. Yep. Yeah, I've done videos on them. They're all right for what they are. They're not awful for what they are. They're not really a Geiger counter. They work using the same logic as a Geiger counter, but they're actually like a little electrical diode. But they're not bad for what they are. But yeah, the easiest way to think about ionizing radiation, if you don't want to go into the proper science of it, it's like light. You just can't see it, and it's dangerous light. And of course, you get alpha, beta, and gamma, as well as the neutrons. But basically, gamma is basically just like ultraviolet light or like not visible light that, you know, imagine how you get sunburn. Well, it's really sunburn's closer to beta radiation, I suppose. But, you know, the point is anyway that yeah, that's the point. But I do like SOEX Geigers, but I've not had a SOEX in ages since the O1M, so they're probably a lot better than that now. But SOEXs used to be all right. They were like very good displays and little, you know, very small Geigers. They just didn't have a very good range. But anyway, thank you, everybody. I will be off now. I hope you enjoyed the stream. It's been an interesting one. So in an hour and a half or so, when it's dark enough, I'll see if I can see the comet through this. But yeah, have a good evening, everybody. See you all. Stay safe. And yeah, I think tomorrow I'll be a lot more energetic because, like I said, I'm only halfway through one can at the moment. So as long as I don't go silly, I think I'll be all right. Right, bye, everybody.